Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you are watching this. Welcome back to a very somber Since I Was Young podcast, 39th episode to be exact. Welcome back. You are joining both myself, Ewan Ramsey, and Alan Scrimger on this fine day for Scottish football. Yes, as you can probably tell, it is 20 past 6 on the 6th of February, Sunday afternoon. We are recording literally just after the monstrosity that we just witnessed from Ibrox, where it was Rangers versus Hearts, 4 o'clock kickoff, and it ended in a dreadful, disappointing 5-0 defeat. So we'll look a bit into the game. Obviously, we won't go through every event or event, if that is a word concerning Hearts. But we will also go through a bit of last week's Edinburgh derby as well, which was held at Easter Road, which was a very fiery stalemate 0-0 draw. So we'll go a bit into that. Unfortunately, again, this week we've not got a news segment to actually bring you, but I'm sure that as the next few weeks, we will bring you more news to bring you that is worth updating you guys. But as always, before we get into the games, if you're not subscribed to the Since I Was Young podcast, but you are a viewer, please think about subscribing. And as always, guys, smash that like button, because throughout the last few months you guys have literally been smashing it, so as always, thank you very much as always. And if you want to get in contact with ourselves via Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, you can. We are at SIWI Pod. Alternatively, as well, if you want to get in contact with us through our email as well, you can. Since I Was Young 1874 at gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to get in touch with either myself or Alan via Twitter as well, you certainly can. In the description, our links will be there if you want to throw us some dogs abuse. So, Alan, last week, the 1st of February, was a derby. Everything was magical in the air. Of course, you and me watched it at the 1874 bar, which, before we start, thank you very much to all the staff that accommodated us and the fans as well. It was a really, really good night, and I got myself a free complimentary pie, and I was buzzing. That was literally my favorite part of the whole night, Alan. I was absolutely buzzing. So, but of course, thank you to everybody who served us and accommodated us. It was a really lovely night from that aspect. So the game itself, as just said, it was Hibs versus Hearts at Easter Road, 7:45 kickoff on an incredibly cold Tuesday night. So Alan, I can let you kick things off. What were your thoughts on the game as a whole, and your sort of feelings like as well before the actual game? Were you feeling quietly confident, or was there that sort of creepy feeling that you thought Hibs could possibly nick this, considering the dreadful form that they were in leading up to the game?
To be fair, I was confident, to the point where I was kind of saying, people, we don't need to worry about this game. We're going to win, and all that sort of stuff. And I still stand by that. The way the game went. We had, obviously, we'll talk about them, but there were a few decisions that on another day go in our favour, and it changes the game. But yeah, I wasn't worried about losing.
Yeah,
A draw, obviously, as it turned out to be, it was one of those that I expected us to win.
yeah,
But
definitely.
Edinburgh derby is like, it's so cliched, it's so obvious, but form goes out the window in an Edinburgh derby.
Yeah,
I think every single Hearts fan's probably said that many times down the years when we go to play Hibs.
yeah,
They've been average at best for a while, and we've been better for a
yeah,
while. But these games, they're always scrappy. There's very rarely actual proper football that gets played in them. It's all about who wants it more. And yeah, it's one of those that I'm not surprised that it went the way that it did, but I was confident going into it. I did feel like we had enough about us to win. But it is what it is. There were moments where we looked good, moments where Hibs were the team in control. So, but we had more of the game than they did, to be fair. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know about the lineup as well. I don't know what you thought about it, but Civic obviously started, and Barry Mackay came in for Gary Mackay-Steven, I think it was. I think those were the sort of changes that he'd made from the game previous.
Yeah, like I mean, we talked about it when the starting lineup came up, and I was relatively happy with the team. I think my only concern was, which I did point out to yourself, our back three was a bit not. I wouldn't go as far as to say it was concerning. However, because it was a back three of Kingsley, Civic, and Taylor Moore, I think my only concern was it was a very inexperienced back three in the context that they hadn't played together that much. So I think that was my only concern in terms of the starting lineup. However, you were relatively happy with the way that we were sitting up front as well, with both Sims and Boyce, with Mackay kind of playing in that sort of 10 role, like as such. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the same as the lineup against, well, the same front three as the Motherwell game before it. And obviously, they worked very well at Motherwell, and it worked out quite well for us in that sense. I think it's going to take them time if that's what Robbie wants to do going forward. But yeah, they look, when they had opportunities, they looked all right. But I think, going through the game, you could see that Boyce and Mackay just weren't quite at it.
Yeah.
Sims put himself about, which is what he's been doing since he's come in. But Boyce and Mackay were targeted by Hibs, I think, and basically shut down and just couldn't really get going in the game, which didn't help. When that's two of your front three, and they didn't look their most sort of effective best, shall we say.
Yeah.
No, and I was just going to say as well, I thought that the team overall, like lineup wise, I was happy with it when I saw it. But you're right. The defense, and obviously, so it proved today against Rangers as well. But we'll talk about that in a little while. The players that are not in that defense are a massive loss. Halkett and Suter have been our two best centre backs all season long, to be honest. Kingsley's done a fantastic job, don't get me wrong. I think Kingsley's been outstanding this season, but Suter and Halkett have been, and Kingsley as a three, have been fantastic. And when you take two of that regular three out, it shows. And even to add Atkinson into that as well, he didn't have the best of times against Hibs, and then again today he didn't have the best of times either. But he's young, he's learning, he's growing, he needs to settle. But Michael Smith has been so dependable. Michael Smith's got fans that like him and fans that don't. But I think we've seen without him, it's a different kind of dynamic. And Atkinson has the potential. I'm not going to deny it. We heard a few weeks ago about what we're getting out of him. But it's been an underwhelming start for Atkinson, I would say.
We'll just have to wait and see. But in talking of our main man in the centre, he did get the first chance of the actual game itself, where Mackay, as always, like putting a beautiful ball into the Hibs box. I think with how the ball went in, we managed to catch out Hibs, where where Devlin just kind of snuck in, and straight away, I genuinely thought that was the first goal in the game. I mean, I don't know if he just kind of panicked at it, and then he just started struck it, not knowing where it was actually going to go. Of course, as well, you made the point. If he could have just left it off to Boyce. When I was watching back the highlights this afternoon as well, I think Boyce might have been in an offside position, possibly, but still, it was a relatively positive start to the game. I think that the first half was pretty even in terms of chances, because of course straight after that as well. I think watching it back again, I think the plan, in my view, that Hibs were going to try and do was try to catch us out in to pieces. Just from that as well, like, the two main chances that they had. The first chance being when Kevin Nisbet had the ball like sort of kind of drifting off at the right hand side, and he struck the post as well. Like, of course, that was offside as well. And then from their second set piece as well, I think if it had like of counted, I think it would have been put down as an own goal from Kingsley, I think. But like again, with those two chances being like offside as well, you could probably argue that it was a very sort of early warning signs from Hibs. But again, like I didn't feel relatively sort of concerned like about them, Alan.
No, I think you're right. To be honest, I think Hibs had those chances, and it's a difficult one to say because obviously, if one of those goes in and it counts, particularly the one that goes in off Kingsley,
yeah,
that was a period in the game when Hibs were the better side.
Yeah.
I have to be honest, that we didn't start particularly well, which is not a surprise to anyone ever that supports Hearts at the moment, especially in big games. But yeah, like if they'd gone 1-0 up at that point, it's a massive uphill battle for us from that point on, because Hibs are the sort of team, they go 1 up and then they'd be bouncing and they'd be, really up for it even more. And I'm not saying they would have gone on and won the game, but it would have been tough for us to get back into it. One thing I do want to point out that we haven't spoken about in recent weeks was the tribute to the young kid Devin Gordon, who passed away. Obviously, they had a tribute for him at the Celtic game when both sets of players stopped and clapped on the 13th minute, and then they did it again at Easter Road. The Hibs fans had a banner. And I just thought it was a very classy gesture that they didn't have to do, but it just shows you that it's one of those things. Football, in the grand scheme of things, is not the most important thing, and I thought it was
of course not.
A very classy gesture, and a very apt way to remember something. A boy obviously lost his life, so tragic. So yeah, it was certainly a nice gesture from the Hibs supporters, and it was pre-arranged. Obviously, they told Hearts they were going to do it, and the Hearts players joined in as well, as did Hibs, and all four stands were up and applauding, which was lovely to see that moment. Again, as I say, it just shows you, football in the grand scheme of things is not the most important thing in society. And when something like that happens, yes, we're rivals, but we can certainly, come together and do something like that. And I think it was a really, really touching moment, to be honest.
Absolutely, agreed on it. Like you said, like they didn't have to do that, and just like as you mentioned there, like when they had the banner, like as well, I thought it was a very touching like sort of thing as well to have the heart in the center, like it was named with both the green and the maroon as well. And like you said, Alan, like just to mention it, like again, when it comes down to the real things, like football is not the most like in important thing. So credit you. But yeah, back into the game. One of the main talking points as well, of course, we'll get to it, was the penalty claim. Now, of course, just to put a bit of context on this, so very early on in the game, of course, with the standard of refereeing in the country at this very moment in time, like of course the cards were getting handed out very early in the game, and one of those cards was handed out to Hibs fullback Lewis Davidson, who was yellow carded very early on, and there was a chance for Ellis Sims, who was then, don't know how to kind of put a name on this, Alan, but I'll just say it like how I think got taken the fuck out. If you put Stevenson into the rugby squad fucking yesterday, he wouldn't look like out of place at all. Definite penalty, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
It's one of those that it's a foul anywhere else on the pitch.
Yeah.
Anywhere else on the pitch, that's a free kick. He literally leans into him, shoulders him, and his head goes in as well. I don't know where he thinks he is. Like you say, he's maybe thinking he's playing at Murrayfield or something. But yeah, like it's a stonewall penalty. And I know Ellis Sims is a big guy. You know, he's a big guy and he's built like a big guy, but Stevenson just takes him out. And how the referee doesn't give it, I have no idea. Like it's just such a stonewall. It's one of those, like, we've said it before about fouls and penalties, that you've seen them given, you've seen them not given. That penalty is that claim is just totally ridiculous. And even Robbie said it after the game. He was talking about it and he says, you know, you need referees to make the right decisions, and today he didn't. And he's right yet again. I know it's becoming a weekly thing that Robbie calls out referees and has things to say about them, but
but he's not wrong though. No,
that's what I'm saying. To his credit, he's right a majority of the time. But yeah, I have no idea how it wasn't given as a penalty. Lewis Stevenson, a very lucky man. If it was a penalty, it's a second yellow and he's off the pitch. Like,
yeah, and I think we kind of said it shortly, like, sort of after it happened, that's probably the reason why, like, he didn't give it. But like, it's still no, like, excuse. Like, yeah, granted, like, it does change the whole game, but still, like, that's a clear and obvious, like, again. You know, we talked about the the debate with the Andy Halliday penalty claim, like, against the Motherwell, which was kind of in the same sort of the bracket, like, except this was 10 times worse. But again, it just goes back to have the call to have VAR in, and then, like, you know, hopefully in time the standard of refereeing can slowly improve, but I will not hold my breath on that. But again, just going into the closing stages of the first half, Cammy Devlin again nearly scoring the goal of the fucking season with a chance and a half. Again, it was just outside the Hibs box. He places it beautifully up into the left-hand side of the Hibs goal. But again, it was just a fraction off. But if, like, again, like, you know, I said it quite a few times when we were at the 1874 Bar Island, it genuinely felt like we were there. Who needs to go to fucking East the Road? Like, literally, there were fans there shouting at the telly as if the players were actually fucking there. It was a delightful night. But yeah, a great chance to possibly go in front just before the first half did end, but unfortunately it went into the second half 0-0. Your thoughts at that point, like, so Alan, like, as well, like, the confidence was still high. I think going to the end of the first half, we did look the stronger side. Like, you know, well, like, apart from his being relatively dominant-ish throughout that first half, did you feel that we had to make sort of any sort of changes, or kind of keep that momentum with the players that were all ready on the park?
I think at halftime I was thinking, right, it's still 0-0 somehow. We've kind of ridden out the Hibs pressure. We'd got ourselves back in the game a bit more. And at halftime, I was kind of thinking, right, you know, obviously this Hearts team have shown in recent weeks that they can turn up in the second half. So I was kind of confident. I thought, right, you know, if we turn it up and turn it on, you know, we can win this. And I thought the system was good enough. Don't get me wrong, there were some players that were not great.
Yeah, I agreed.
Across the 90 minutes, to be fair. But it was one of those games, as I say, it was a scrappy one, and it was always likely to be that. And the way that the first half went, it was kind of a case of whoever gets the first goal wins this game.
It's done, yeah.
It didn't look like the second half was going to be a high scoring game. It didn't look like there was going to be loads of goals. But yeah, I was pleased at halftime because I felt like, you know, Hibs can't really be any better than that.
Yeah, and I was pleased as well, Alan, like, at halftime, because that's when I got my free pie. But on that note, going into the second half, I do absolutely, like, agree. Like, you know, the second half in general, Hibs had absolutely nothing throughout that second half. Like you said, like, you know, we were the more dominant side. Like, again, like, it's been the same theme throughout the season as well, where we tend to turn it up throughout the second half. And just to prove that, Sims had 3 chances throughout like a small was it like sort of whatever period of time. Again, what's annoying me how the tables have turned at Hibs and their goalkeeper, whoever it may be, just seems to turn up every time we play them now. Like it's ridiculous. Like this Jack Guru, like this very cheap Jack was a Grealish lookalike, who was in goal for Hibs. I will not lie. I thought he had a decent game. Like he made some very good saves for Hibs. But again, I would like to kind of point out. I think Sims as well. If we're playing well, during games, I think that he could be a really good striker for us as well. Like like we said it last week as well. Like yeah, granted he may be a big tall guy, but he can run, he can hold it up, he can shoot. Like you know what I mean. So I think if he starts to get on a run of good form and starts to score goals, I think that, like he can be a really like a exciting striker.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think just while we're talking about kind of individual players, I was really impressed with Sibic as well.
Yeah.
He strolled through that game again, just like he did in the second half against Motherwell. Atkinson, who I pointed out earlier, wasn't fantastic, but certainly grew into the game and started look. I think he looked a lot more confident in the second half and a lot more comfortable. And we saw it against Rangers today as well. Again, we'll talk about that in a little while. But Atkinson against Hibs, it's almost like he's very good going forward. I'll give him that. He looks very composed going forward, but I think when he gets caught out and he loses the ball, he's got to get back in quick. And we saw examples of it against Rangers today as well. But that's for me the issue that we've got at the moment. He needs to switch on, and he needs to be a bit more composed, perhaps. I think it's also maybe just trying too hard to impress because he's just arrived. It could be that.
Maybe, yeah.
But yeah, like as the game went on at Easter Road, I thought he really grew into it and started to be a bit of a threat down the wing. Had an interesting battle with Demi Mitchell down the wing for them on a few occasions, but it's one of those. I actually think Mitchell might do quite well for Hibs. To be fair, I don't like to say that because I don't really rate him, but I think what Sean Maloney's trying to do with Hibs suits a player like Mitchell, to be honest. But then Maloney might not last to the end of the season the way they're going just now.
I would not be surprised, mate. I would not be surprised.
Yeah, no, and then obviously we had the second major penalty claim incident, shall we say?
Go ahead, Alan. Go ahead.
So the back pass to Dabrowski, the Hibs goalkeeper. I don't think he realised it was a back pass, and he sort of flapped at it, and then we got given the free kick. We did exactly the same thing against Motherwell the week before, and this one, however, the Hibs players all rushed out. I honestly thought it was going to need to be retaken because they seemed to get to the ball before we'd even hit it. But obviously there was, nothing wrong with that, apparently.
Of course not.
And it hits a hand of, I think, was it Porteous?
It was I look back, it was Stevenson again. So he's could have been sent off 2 times, Alan.
Yeah. So I think it's one of those that, at the time when we were watching it, I was convinced it's a handball, it's a penalty. Like, there's no doubt about it. Having watched it again and a few days after the game, I can kind of understand. I'm still annoyed it wasn't given, don't get me wrong, but the referee's looking right at it. That's what baffles me. Like, in a situation like that, the ball being so close to the wall, if I'm the referee, I'm watching the ball. I'm not interested in anything else because it's only going to travel a short distance before it hits someone. And it did hit his hand. It hit his hand. Yes, it was very close, so you could say, oh, the Hibs boy couldn't get his hand out of the way, whatever, but it's irrelevant. It hits his hand and it's in the box.
Alan.
It's a penalty kick. It is a penalty kick. But again, it wasn't as much of a stonewall as the Sims foul, but it was certainly enough, I would say, to give a penalty.
Oh yeah, Alan. I 100% like agreed. Like again, like just to kind of go back to your point, like if I'm the ref, like I want to be standing in the best possible view I can be, because like you said, when it comes to like a pass back sort of free kick, like you obviously 9 times out of 10, it's obviously just going to be like a very powerful shot to try and like get the ball through. Now, again, just what baffled me is that he's got a clear view, like he's in the best position to actually see where the ball actually goes, but yet, like, I just don't understand it. And we seem to be talking about it every single week that the standard of like of fucking refereeing as well, like again, because we'll talk about it like in a small bit, but that little creature that is called, well, they call him, like again, like just some decisions that were made, just like what what are you doing? Like again, like I just don't get it. And again, I think this is a massive reason why Scottish football in general is so in the fucking stone age. Like I know that when we did our VAR like sort of episode, I was kind of sitting on the fence like whether or not this would affect the Scottish game in a bad way. But mate, fucking I have been off like I've been off that fence. I am on a plane away from that fence. Like seriously, it has to be brought in fucking now because it's ridiculous. I honestly is.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think the biggest issue that I have now, and this is something that is inevitable, like absolutely inevitable, when VAR comes in,
Yeah.
it has to level the playing field. It has to make it neutral. It has to be fair. But it's still going to be the same referees that are going to be using it.
That's what I'm afraid
So
of. That's what I'm afraid of, Alan.
is it still going to be geared towards Celtic and Rangers? Is it still going to be, decisions in their favour? I don't know. But it's it's one of those. If we had VAR against Hibs, we would have had at least 2 penalties. But I think as well, it speaks volumes that their goalkeeper was the man of the match.
Yeah.
Any other, you said it yourself earlier on, any other Hibs goalkeeper, and we win that game.
Yeah.
Like we do.
True.
But then talking about goal lines and goalkeepers, a big let off right at the end.
Oh yes.
Right at the end from, was it Nisbet that had the shot?
I believe so as well. But like just before you go, like on as well, I would also like again like to thank the staff at the 1874 bar for cleaning up the puddle of shite that I left behind on that floor. Like literally, again because it was just typical. Literally in the 90th at the minute, like as soon as you saw the ball get cut back, you just knew. Like straight away, Alan.
Yeah, and I mean it's a shot that somehow goes under Gordon. I still can't quite recall how that happened, but Sibic had a brilliant game. I genuinely think he can be a massive player for us going forward.
Yeah.
Still young, still needs to develop a bit more, but looks solid. And he just happened to be right on the line behind Craig Gordon. And somehow managed to get a foot on it and clear it away.
Yeah.
I have this amazing thing. Obviously, like I love, as I've said before on this podcast, I love wingers that can beat players and take people on. But I have a very strange thing that I actually really like as well. It's defenders and goalkeepers celebrating like they've scored a goal.
Passion, like speaking volumes, mate. Like just like literally the passion from that, like because we've seen it from quite like a lot of players, like most notably when we were away to Livingston and when Craig Gordon made those 100 saves like in a row. It was just the passion, and I think the team, the squad, and the club as a whole. That's kind of where we're at right now. Like people want to play for this club, and they're passionate like about it, like as much as the fans are.
Yeah, and Craig Gordon turns around and gives him the biggest bear hug I've ever seen, because he knows he's been let off massively.
Definitely.
Because there's no taking away from it. If Siddick's not there, we lose that game 1-0
It's
in the
done.
last
Yeah,
minute.
done.
Like, and it would have been absolutely heartbreak. But yeah, I think, going back to looping back to what I said at the start when you asked me about the game, it was scrappy. It was a typical Edinburgh derby. Hibs had about 25 minutes where they looked like a competent football team.
Yeah.
And then we turned it up and turned it on and thought, right, we're in a game here. And we were unlucky not to win. End of the game, Hibs once again celebrated like they'd won.
Yeah.
Which is understandable, because I think even Hibs fans, and certainly some that I'd spoken to online, were expecting us to win quite comfortably. So a point for them would have felt like a win. Whereas a point for us feels like a bit, it's a bit flat. We had enough chances to win it, but we just didn't manage to put one away. But yeah, talking about that, the biggest frustration for me, obviously, I watched Hibs yesterday play against St Mirren, and it brings it home even more. It actually made me more frustrated that we haven't been able to beat them like this season yet. Like,
I know.
I'm not going to make this a Hibs podcast. It absolutely isn't. But Sean Maloney is trying to do something there. Whether he gets the time to do it, I don't know. I watched them against St Mirren, and it actually boiled me, because I was like, how have we only managed to draw with this team 0-0? Like, St Mirren beat them 1-0 with probably really the only chance that St Mirren actually had in the game, and it was gifted to them anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll play better than we did against Hibs and lose this season, and we'll play better and win.
I agree.
We have done, but it's the most important thing is the gap is still there above them, and yeah, no harm done in that sense.
Absolutely, and just like one last point, like Hibs were just like over the moon, like the fact that they got like a point, and we as Hearts fans were quite disappointed. But again, I think that kind of speaks volumes in terms of where the clubs are at. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we wanted to go there and win, and I think Hibs, if they were off hard a point at the start, like a game, like they would have fucking would the bit your hand off, but but at the end, like it was a point, like it could have been worse. So we move on. And then following today's event, it was our turn to be the incompetent team. Of course, as I said at the start, it was a very disappointing trip to Ibrox, where the game ended in a ridiculous 5-0 result. Alan, I'm going to give you the pleasure of talking a bit about the actual game as well, because unfortunately, due to work, I only was able to catch the second half. But from what you were texting me, because it's like as soon as I looked at my phone, I had like about 10 texts saying shite, pish, cunt, fuck. So do you want to kind of just quickly brush through what you actually felt for it that first half, man?
Yeah, definitely. So going off the lineup when it was put out earlier today, I looked at it and instantly felt less confident. Take nothing away. See, after the Hibs result, obviously, Celtic absolutely battered Rangers on the Wednesday night. And full time on Wednesday night at the Old Firm derby, I actually thought, right, we're going to get absolutely hammered by Rangers at Ibrox. It's only going to go one way. I was expecting us to get beat, and comfortably so. But when I looked at the lineup that Hearts had put out and the way they were playing, I was surprised. Sims benched for one was a surprise, but as was pointed out to me by multiple people on Twitter, he has played a lot of games in a short space of time, so perhaps it was a fitness thing. Just giving him a wee rest for the first 45, because as we all know, we only turn up for the second half anyway, so makes sense. Yeah, it was just, and McKenneth came in as well. McKenneth came in and played up front with Boyce and Mackay. McKenneth was sort of the wide on the right player, but the first half went exactly how you would expect it to go when we go through to Glasgow. I could say so many things, and I have always, once I've watched the Hearts game, I will literally, and I've said this before, I'll go onto Twitter, I'll go into social medias and have a look at what the reaction is and have a vent and have a rant as everybody does. I've yet to do that because we literally jump.
Leave it there, mate. Just
yeah, no,
leave
look,
it there.
it is. I've yet to do that because I just don't want to get more annoyed than I already am. First half, I have to be honest, we weren't terrible. I just think Rangers have so much more quality than we do. Robbie said it during the week that we're not going to go there and sit back. We're not going to go there and sit off them. And I think this is the one thing that I did put on Twitter during the first half. We played a high defensive line of Moore, Sibic, and Kingsley.
Okay.
And we did play probably 10 yards further forward than we have been whenever we go through. So there was obviously an element of, right, let's try and push forward. Let's try and play further up the park. But Ryan Kent, Alfredo Morelos, they just made us look like kids at the back. Honestly, the whole first half, Ryan Kent was unlucky not to have scored 2 goals in the first half. He had Atkinson absolutely roasted every single time, and Rangers knew it. And every time they were getting the ball down that side, it was right, target him, target Atkinson, because Atkinson did not have a good game today. He did not have a good game today, which is a shame. But I have to say, he didn't get any help from Moore or McKenneth, who was further in front of him. It was just, it's really, really not great. The high line is good when you've got players that have got pace at the back. Sibic is quick enough to play a high line. Kingsley is mobile enough to play a high line.
Yeah.
Taylor Moore has the pace and turning circle of a bus. That man, honestly, mate, right? And this is where I'm going to end up ranting about this, but I'll go with the first goal as a perfect example. I'm not even going to talk about the Ryan Kent chances before the first goal, because we were lucky the first goal came when it did and not earlier. The first goal, Cammy Devlin gives the ball away, something he was guilty of all day.
All right, okay.
He had a stinker as well. He gives the ball away, passes it out to Cochrane, and Cochrane's never going to get near it. Then I think it was Ryan Jack, or Lundstrom, one of the two, that passed it out to Bassey at fullback for Rangers. And Ryan Kent was completely on his own. He'd got between Atkinson and Moore, and the ball is just slid between Atkinson and Moore. But it's a brilliant pass, to be fair, from Bassey. It's a great pass. Kent completely roasts Atkinson again and plays a ball into the box. And Morelos, who was marked quite well by Sibic in the build-up to the goal, Morelos ran off Sibic. He ran off his back. Sibic just let him go, lost him, whatever. And it's a tap-in at the back post for Morelos. And I've said this before about Morelos when we've played against Rangers, that you cannot give him that space in the box.
No.
He punishes you every single time. Every time. And he did it later on in the game as well. But yeah, the first half, we were so passive. And it's one of those things that we talk about it every time Hearts go to Glasgow. Every time. It's not even just playing Rangers, it's Celtic as well. They always talk a good game and they always say, right, we're going to get in faces where, if you want to get something out of these games, you've got to show up and, show you want it and all that. That first half was honestly some of the worst football I've seen us play in a long time.
Wow.
But I have to say, Rangers, to be fair, showed how big the gap is between us and them with the quality of their players. Morelos, obviously, just back from international duty, missed the Old Firm game. Massive miss for them in that game. But obviously wanted to make up for it today. Looked in the mood. Sibic against him was a really, really interesting battle in the first half. But yeah, it's so frustrating. And then at halftime, you're sitting there and you're thinking, right, the only positive I can draw out of that half is that it's only 1-0. Because honestly, it could have quite easily been 3 or 4 at halftime, let alone full time.
God almighty.
If Ryan Kent had his actual shooting boots on, I think he maybe had his boots on the wrong feet, to be honest with you. I think that's the only explanation I can come up with, because he put, you'll see it. I don't know if you've actually watched the highlights of the first half, because I know you only saw the second half.
No, I didn't.
He literally, there's two chances that are pretty much exactly the same, to be honest, and he just cuts across the ball, and it is literally inches past the post, both of them. So yeah, like I said, it tells you a lot when the only positive you can come out with from the first half is, thank God we're not buried yet, because we could have been. And it's funny because all the people, like, I went onto Twitter at halftime and loads of folk were saying, oh, it's the same old usual, we're sitting off them, we're, you know, not getting in faces, we're not trying to get the ball back. And they're right. But the problem was, it was exactly the same as the Celtic game. And I said this to yourself as well. Exactly the same as the Celtic game. We sat off them to the point where we were chasing after them. When we got the ball, we didn't have anyone to give it to. None of the players looked like they wanted to take the ball. As I say, Cammy Devlin had a really poor day. Benny didn't really do much better either, to be fair, but they were dominated by players that are better than them. You know, that's the takeaway that I took from the game, to be honest. But yeah, the first half was just, it was typical, and it was so obviously going to go that way as well. Like, but what do you do? McKenneth as well was absolutely horrendous. Like, and I like McKenneth. You know this. I like McKenneth. I'm a fan of Aaron McKenneth, but in that first half, I don't really remember him doing anything productive, honestly. And he was playing down the same side as Atkinson, and Moore was the right-sided centre-back, and none of them helped Atkinson. Atkinson was getting doubled up constantly. Kent and Bassey were running riot down that side. And it showed. Like, I felt sorry for Atkinson because he didn't have a great game either. But he wasn't getting the help. And people are going to say, oh, you're just talking about Atkinson because you like him and because you hyped him up before he signed and all this. I think there's definitely a player in there, but we've got to remember he's just walked in and he's come into a run where we've had massive games against massive opponents, you know, Celtic, Rangers, Motherwell, Hibs, you know, teams around us in the table. So play him against sides that are lesser than us and he'll do well. But for your first few games for Hearts to be those games, it's quite a tough start to have, to be fair.
So, Alan, just from kind of taking that in, I think the fact that you didn't get a chance to do like a tweet at the end of the game, I think you've probably managed just to get what you're thinking just ranted out. So I do hope you feel slightly better.
I don't, but it helps.
All right, okay, thanks. I mean, on the contrary to that, obviously, like I said to you, that I did manage to catch the first half. And I'll be very honest, the opening 10, like, of the second half, I was watching, I was like, what has he been watching? Like, we actually look all right, you know? Like, of course, we
second half, isn't it?
I know, yeah, exactly. Like, of course, we had the few chances, like, you know, literally, like, a few minutes into the second half. And, of course, there was, again, it sounds like I'm saying this every week, but again, Mackay with a beautiful ball in. At first, I didn't think, like, I genuinely thought that it was a missed hit, like sort of a crossing, but Atkinson just manages to catch it, and it's a shot right across the face of goal. And I'll be honest, I thought that was heading in, and like if it had done, one, like, of course, we're right back, like, you're into the game, and two, I would have been phoning you, not texting you, phoning you, say, what have you been watching, son? Fucking playing amazing.
He brought Sims on at halftime for McKenneth, changed the system up a little bit, which helped. But to be honest, Sims could have came on for anyone at halftime. honestly, McKenneth was, and it hurts me to say it because I like McKenneth, but it was like watching Gary Mackay-Steven, Mr. Invisible, genuinely. I think
racing must have been awful, didn't it?
McKenneth did the same. He did the same job, and I feel bad for him. I do feel bad for him because I like McKenneth a lot.
Yeah, I know you do, man.
That first half performance had me thinking, is he really good enough to play in this team? I don't know whether he is. And
It may be a bit of a push to say that, after was it for 45 the minutes now, because the whole
Yeah.
team, like you said, like the whole team didn't play particularly well.
No, they didn't, and it's one of those that I'm not going to judge him off of 45 minutes because I like him, and I think there's definitely a quality level of player there. But my point is, you know, it's a difficult way, it's a difficult thing to say, but I just think is he a top 3 player in the Scottish Premier League? I don't like a top three team, which
I
is
get
what we
you.
are
I
at
know,
the
man. I
moment.
get you.
Does he have the quality to sustain that? I don't know whether he does. It could be a Nandule Championship kind of situation again. I hope I'm wrong, but it's one of those situations that he'll have been as disappointed as anybody else with his performance that first half, but they were all average.
Yeah.
Second half, though, as you say, we started it so much better. We had the chance from Atkinson that you said, and then barely a couple of minutes after that, we had Cammy Devlin.
It was a wasted opportunity. It was just sorry to jump in, Alan, but that was
No, you go.
wasted opportunity. Like, I know it was very quick when it happened, but all he has to do is hit the target. And you yourself, Alan, I've not played football for a fucking long time, but when you're having a shot that's kind of trying to loop the keeper, from my understanding, it's kind of easier because all you have to do is just judge how hard you want to hit it. But 9 times out of 10, it will be on target. But literally, all he had to do was hit that on target. And, you know what I mean? And it was, again, your favorite word of all time. It was just so frustrating. Like, that's 2 chances that we literally could have been, was it 2 goals up?
Yeah, I know. And then the frustrating thing, to add that word again, was that so we had a very good first 10 minutes of the second half.
Yeah.
Those 2 chances fell in that time. And when Cammy Devlin lobs McGregor, I'm thinking, if we can get a goal here, we're back in this. We're
definitely
back in this. If we get the next goal, we're back in this, and it's a competition again. And then Morelos scores again.
That goal really, well, out of the 5, I think that goal really, really frustrated me because, of course, when seconds before the actual goal went in, what annoyed me most about kind of watching the replays back is that when he has the ball, nobody is closing him down. Like, nobody, like, he's got time to look where and where he wants to go. And of course, the unfortunate, was it mishap is that when he tries to pass it on, it takes in the deflection from the Kingsley, which then falls back at his feet. But again, you've got to give him credit that it was a good finish, and I don't care if you're Craig Gordon, or not, it was a good finish. But again, you kind of thought, even though it's only 2-0, that to me kind of signaled the end. I just didn't think they're going to get a whole lot worse, man.
Yeah, look, it goes back to what I said about Morelos with the first goal.
Yeah.
You give him space, you give him time, and he'll punish you. And he did that for that second goal. Well, and it's just so annoying because we never learn. That this is my biggest frustration, and this is targeted at Robbie Nielsen more than anybody else. We just never learn. We need to be a bit more savvy in these games against the Old Firm, and as much good or as much amount of good as Robbie Nielsen has done since coming back, and where we are in the table, 3rd place, is brilliant, well above my expectations anyway.
Of course, yeah.
We need to find a way to get something in these games. Yes, Agreed. These games do not define our season. They don't. We're still 10 points clear in 3rd place despite getting pumped 5-0 today. But that's as a result of other teams dropping points. And yeah, like I said, this result will not define Hearts' season, but Robbie will be hurting, but he needs to learn from this.
Yeah.
And it's so annoying, and then the game just sort of got away from us after that. I think Robbie actually said after the game, I was just reading on the BBC website there, he said something along the lines of, I thought we had a good first 10 minutes of the second half, but then we capitulated after they scored the second goal. And that's bang on.
Absolutely right.
Bang on. We had moments. Boyce had a couple of moments, but nothing. We just couldn't get going. We couldn't get going in the game. Then in the last 15 minutes, Glenn Kamara gets subbed on. He's literally on the pitch for a couple of minutes, and he just decides to just beat everyone and smack it in the net, again, to be honest, I'd lost interest at that point when it went 2-0. When it went 2-0, I was like, do you know what, this game's done now. We've had our moment, and now it's just damage limitation. Rangers were clearly hurting after their Old Firm embarrassment and wanted to put a few goals past us, and they did.
Which they did. Exactly.
Yeah. But again, just before you move on, I think the biggest takeaway from me for this game, and I'm not even going to talk about the last few goals because, to be honest, I don't remember them. But the biggest takeaway for me from this game is the quality gap. I know everybody says, oh, this Rangers team's not as good as it could be. We should be going out and going after them. They've got Aaron Ramsey sitting on the bench. Like, this guy's probably earning 40 grand a week at this point. He's on 350 grand a week at Juventus, which is ridiculous even for them. But Rangers can have that sort of player sitting on their bench. We don't have that quality. We'll never have that quality. And this is a reality check for Hearts today, a massive reality check today. And I know I say that, our season won't be defined by results against Celtic and Rangers, but performances at least have to be better than what we've seen.
Agreed.
That for me, I could take a 5-0 defeat because today we didn't deserve anything. Like,
absolutely no.
We were average at best, but the performance has to be better than that. It has to be better than that because we were just so off it today. And again, I've said it for weeks and weeks and weeks. That first half, what are we doing? What is this? Why are we so passive and standoff in the first half? Away from home in particular, we need to be better than that. If we're going to have any sort of chance of catching Celtic and Rangers, which we're not going to, I know you've said before that you were hoping for a second place finish, and I admire your optimism massively. Oh God, massively. But
there'll be the people that are watching this right now laughing their arses off. Like, literally.
The thing is that the reason that we're third at the moment is because teams below us have been beating each other, and we've been picking up points consistently, which is all you have to do, But if you want to secure it properly, we need to be getting points off Rangers and Celtic. Even just one, we beat Celtic first game of the season. We've drawn with Rangers this season. Today was embarrassing, but I knew it would be. It would be. I loved going through sort of social media before the game and like the last couple of days, and people going, oh, this Rangers team's not that great. If we start well and have a go at them, we've got a chance. And in my head, I'm thinking, we've got no chance. As soon as it was full time on Wednesday night, having watched Celtic absolutely batter them, I knew we were in for a doing today. I knew it. And it was just a case of how many, genuinely. I think a lot of the players have started to believe their own hype as well. I think that's something that Robbie Neilson needs to put a boot in right now, because we're comfortably third, which is great. We've come through 4 very tough games with, points in games we expected to get points in, let's be honest. But we're not world beaters. And I think there are certain players, and I'm not going to name them because people that are listening will know exactly who I'm talking about, that have been praised a lot in recent weeks, and they've started to believe their own hype. And that is a worry. This, like I said, this is a reality check today. We've come through a very difficult run of games. Now we've got a rather easier run of games against sides in the bottom 6. And I think, let me just have a little look fixture-wise. So up next, we've got Dundee. Then we play Livingston, St Johnstone, St Mirren.
So you could probably argue that we should be getting full points from that. Absolutely.
Definitely. definitely. Dundee at home on Wednesday night is huge, and it's the perfect game to have after an absolute hammering from Rangers. And I hope that on Wednesday night against Dundee, we go out and we put them away. I want to see a better performance. I want to see goals. I want Dundee fans, managers, players to get absolutely embarrassed, because that'll make up for today. But yeah, I hope that when they were coming home from Glasgow, the players all had a little look at themselves and went, that wasn't good enough. Because regardless of system, regardless of substitutions that Robbie made, which, by the way, none of them did anything, we were never in that game today. Never in it. Aside from 10 minutes when we actually looked like we wanted to turn up. We were never in it. And again, it's a reality check, and it shows where we are. Yes, we've come far from where we have been, championship and all that, but we've got a long way to go if we want to be seriously considered as the third best team in this country.
Agreed on that, Alan. And that kind of brings us on to, I mean, I don't think we sort of need to say how we feel, what we want, what we expect from the next game, because we all know what we need. We need a positive reaction on this, and I expect a full pumping of Dundee, because again, like, there's no excuse not to just get like a win, but to get a convincing win. And I just hope as well, like you said, from that, we hope that Robbie starts to actually learn in terms of playing both Rangers and Celtic, to just show up a bit more consistently in the first half as well. Like, if I don't see us at least one goal to the good throughout the first half, like against Dundee, that'll make me start to think, like, is this the game plan where we don't tend to do much throughout the first half, but when it comes to the second half, just fucking fire everything at them, So it'll be interesting to actually see when we get to the next game on Wednesday night, as Alan just mentioned there. It'll be at Tynecastle, of course, 7:45 kickoff, as I said, on the Wednesday night. So, Alan, I'm just going to fire it at you. What are your prediction for Dundee? Because, like us as well, Alan, the exact same of Hearts, for the prediction lead, 4 points out of 12. And what a surprise, still level. Like, I don't get tired of saying it, because it's just so typical, mate. So yeah, what is your score prediction for the home game against Dundee on Wednesday night?
I think there will be changes to the team. I think there are certain players that should not play. I think Taylor Moore is one of them.
I agree on that.
I would genuinely rather play somebody that sits in the stand, to be quite honest with you. He was shocking today, by the way, if you haven't worked that out.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be interesting to see what he does with the lineup for Wednesday night. But regardless, we should have enough. We should have enough. And we should do to Dundee what Rangers did to us today. Because Rangers got embarrassed by Celtic. They had that fire in them to say, right, let's go and put that right. Rangers came out today. They were never going to lose that game. Now it's up to Robbie Neilson to go, right, you were embarrassed at Ibrox. Let's go out and batter Dundee and put that right.
100%.
I'm going to go for a 3-0 win to Hearts. I'm going to go for a 3-0.
Nice one, man. And like you just said, like, to echo your thoughts, I expect the exact same. Like, I want us to have that fiery passion to not let this happen again, because again, like, that, even though I only got a chance to get the first half, after that first 10, it showed me what your frustration was throughout that the first half at Ibrox. So on this thought for the game against Sunday, I'm going to go for a 4-0 win, because that's what I expect. And to be honest, that's what I expect from Hearts when there's teams that are not for example, Rangers, Celtic, Hibs, and Aberdeen. That's the kind of scoreline that I do expect, especially like at home. So that's anything less than a 3-0, like even though there'll be 3 points, like, you know what I mean? I want us to put that passion into this disappointing defeat from Ibrox. So, but it all falls down to what actually happens on the actual day. But on that note, I think that kind of brings us to the end of the 39th episode of the Since I Was Young podcast. Now, of course, we want to hear your thoughts from the game at Ibrox, like as well, what you would like to see changed for the Dundee game. Who do you think has a future at Hearts based on the performances at Ibrox, and what your general thoughts will be for the Dundee game? So we would love to hear your thoughts on that in the comments, and I'm sure that we will put someone on Twitter as always as well. But on that note, thank you very much for watching the rant that Alan just had to vent out. I could see literally like you're draining venting, just like getting out and out. But I do not blame you, sir. Like, you're probably speaking for every single Hearts fan out there. Like, you know, today, mate.
It's the passion, it's the thought, you know, and
Absolutely.
Like I said during the week, I was expecting us to get battered. So I'm not surprised with the result. Genuinely, I'm not surprised. The issue is the way that it happened, and the fact that some of those players were just absolute passengers today, and I do not like that. You know, I want, and just, you know, one thing before we go, because I'll end up ranting again, but any time a player pulls on a Hearts jersey, they should go out and give 100%. And today, not one of them did. Genuinely, not one of them did. And I put the blame at Robbie Nielsen's door, but the players are the ones that cross the line and go and play the game.
Of course.
They didn't do enough. They didn't do enough.
Agreed, Alan. Agreed on that. Well, let's hope it is a different story on Wednesday night against Dundee. But as always, guys, thank you very much for watching the Since I Was Young podcast, the Friend Tonight episode. Again, if you are not subscribed to the channel, please think about subscribing and smash that like button as always. If you want to catch us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, you can. On screen is our link at SIWY pod. Alternatively as well, we want to get in contact with us through our email, since I was young 1874 at gmail.com. And of course, if you want to join Alan for a venting session on Twitter as well, please feel free. His link to his Twitter account will be in the description, and if you just want to talk to me like about football tops, you do that. My Twitter account will also be in the description as well. But Alan, as always, thank you very much for joining me, as always, regardless of the result today. And let's hope it is a different story on Wednesday. But from me and Alan, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. You take care. Bye for now.